With the recent success of Dispatch, many people have begun to draw comparisons to Invincible and how Robert is a far better protagonist at this point in the story than Mark, and how even though they're both realistic, Robert is just far better. And so, in this video, I intend on delving into why that's the case and if their hate and love for both is valid. So, strap in because I'm about to get real in depth with this video. But before I do get into the video, if you guys do enjoy content like this, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe. Also, hype the video because apparently that does something. As I do post content like this regularly, and to be honest, it's a win-win. You actually love the support and they give back to me in the form of videos. Whether it's Dispatch, Invincible, or just fiction in general, in due time I'm covering it, so be there when I go there. But I feel like I've rambled on enough. So I jump straight into the video and find out why we hate Mark and love Robert. Now, before I say anything, just know that this is the Mark from the animated series and not Mark in the comics. Mark in the comics is a different character as it's well further on in his life, so many criticisms that you may hear in this video may become null and void. But the discussion today is around Mark from the animated series and Robert at the end of Dispatch. Now, even though there are a lot of people who love Mark, at the exact same time there are a lot of people who hate him, and it's mainly because of his behavior during the Invincible War and his ongoing feud with Cecil. If you haven't noticed, inside the Invincible community, animated series community, a lot of people are actually Cecil fans, and I feel like calling them Cecil fans is a bit too much. I'd just say they are supporters of him, as his decision making is very logical in that moment in time, as he is just a regular man surrounded by superpowered individuals. Now, that sounds very familiar, doesn't it? That sounds like Robert. So the reason a lot of people who like Cecil, like Robert, is because they were put into the situation of having to handle these heroes and send them out. Now, when a hero starts to backchat and doesn't do their job, a lot of people are not going to like it, because Mark is meant to be the hero on Earth that is meant to save everyone, because he is the son of Omni-Man, also known as basically the strongest person on Earth prior to Mark just being there alone. And because he is the main character and protagonist, we want Mark to continue growing and keep doing well. But constantly people are pointing out how Mark is very immature through a lot of the scenes that he is in, and how he just doesn't do his job, while on the other hand Robert is just like Cecil and will always do his job. And especially because Mark is the main character of Dispatch, we get to see all the little ins and outs. Some of the things we don't get to see with Cecil, and we obviously get to know that Robert is always doing the best for his team, and Robert is even handling an ex-villain team. Everybody on the team, aside from two additions that you can make, we're all villains and they're trying to reform, and he is even going through a whole love cycle to then benefit either character. Obviously I think Blonde Blazer does receive less of a benefit while Invisigal receives more of a benefit, but either way Robert is doing the best that he can, while on the other end you have Mark, who is just doing whatever he kind of wants, and he's trying to be a hero and trying to stand in for his father and be his own man, but it's not really stacking up due to his emotional immaturity. Now, essentially what you've heard me say for the past couple of minutes was that Robert is mature and Mark is immature, and I think this is something that a lot of people do misunderstand when it comes down to Mark, and why it makes Mark such a great character in the grand scheme of things. Mark is around, or is our age, or he could even just be younger than most of you. And especially since this series is targeted to mature audiences, he's obviously going to aggravate some of us. And one thing that a lot of us do need to realize is that he kind of does the exact same mistakes that many of us would. I know a lot of people watching the show say, oh, I wouldn't have done that, I would have went out to the Invincible War no matter what, and I wouldn't have been pandering over my girlfriend. But I doubt it. A lot of people will say that, but when it comes down to things in reality, they wouldn't do that, and that is what makes Mark such a good character and a realistic character, which is why he's so good. We see him go through traumatic things season after season, and we still expect him to be making these rational choices even though everything's going on around him. I mean, in the first season he literally got beat to a pulp by his dad, left there, then found out his dad made a new family, found out everything about his race and whatnot, and then he's then meant to go fight other variants of himself while he's dealing with emotional stuff. I think out of the people watching this video, around about 5% of you could probably get up and actually go and do what you need to do. I've shrunk that down to 1%. A lot of you would probably been already emotionally broken, and a lot of other things would have happened. And that is just the reality of the situation. At this point in the series, Mark is definitely still a growing character. He went from not being able to kill anybody to then being able to kill people, but now he is then having to obviously balance the emotional struggle of being in a relationship, doing these other things, growing and maturing. Like, half of the show is literally about how a teenager who's just turned an adult is now forced to weigh the burden of the world. He is a baby. And especially since he's a Viltrumite, he is definitely a baby. In those terms, he is not meant to be as emotionally and physically capable as he is now. So he is going to make mistakes over and over and over again. And even if he makes the exact same mistake, it is something very human. Because while he is a Viltrumite, he is also a human. We make mistakes over and over again. How many of you have told yourself to stop eating something and you've gone back and eaten it many times and just fallen into addiction? Whether it be with eating things, gambling, or anything. Mark just does it on a way bigger scale because, well, he is a hero that is tasked to save the world, but he is also a kid at the exact same time. An adult, but, well, to his race, he's technically a kid. So then when we flip the script and look at Robert, somebody who has already been a hero for many years and is 30, there is nothing to really compare here. Now obviously the comparisons still go on because of the very realistic art styles of both series, how it's all down to earth and how both of these characters go through kind of similar struggle. What we love about Robert is his maturity, and as I've said before, we are the target audience. Everybody from, I'd say, around 16 or 17 up until like your 40s and even beyond that, we are the target audience. So we naturally gravitate to somebody who is emotionally mature and knows what they are doing. The first thing we get to see with Robert is him being able to just talk about his trauma, something that Mark struggled with, but Robert is easily able to do because he is old and mature and knows that, I mean, there's nothing he can really do, but he can just talk about it. And then he obviously does what he does to the villain. Then we continue throughout the game and things only show us how Robert is way more emotionally mature. His two love paths literally show us his maturity. The Invisigal path literally showcases this the best, as he has to constantly take her hiccups and forgive them over and over again, knowing that she means good by what she's doing, but she just doesn't know how to do it correctly. So he is there holding her hand and guiding her. I feel like Invisigal and Mark can be compared way more because Mark is somebody who is emotionally immature, same with Invisigal, but Invisigal likes to dress it up as she knows what she's doing, but realistically speaking, she really doesn't. She is emotionally mature to some degree, but throughout the game you do get to see her hiccups and you do get to see that she is extremely fragile when it comes down to her feelings, exactly the same as Mark. They go off of how they feel. They are emotionally driven characters who will do what they need to do, which is why I just don't understand the comparisons between Mark and Robert. Robert is somebody who has already gone through his story, and I do get, yes, obviously the art styles and how they obviously parody DC and Marvel does come up, but they are two different characters. And that's why I don't think we should be comparing the two, because I've seen a lot of people just start to hate Mark over the comparisons between the two. Mark is somebody who is shown to be developing throughout the story and in every single aspect of his life is immature. But as the series goes on, he then continues to develop. Exact same thing with Invisigal, and that's why he shouldn't be compared to Robert. Robert is somebody who is done maturing. Like, I would rather people compare Mark to Peter Parker, like we've already done. And you can then compare adult Peter to Robert. That makes way more sense because Peter will always be a realistic hero, but at different points in his life, he could be compared to Mark and he compared to Robert. Because when he then gets older, he then takes on more of that Robert role where, yes, he is still Spider-Man, he's doing everything else, but you do then get to see him interact with other characters and show them the ropes, because he had to obviously learn it himself. Exact same with Mark. And that's where I think that the hate that we have for Mark, I get it. You're allowed to hate a character, but understand when you're hating him, hate him for a reason and not because you don't understand his character. Mark is a character who is still emotionally maturing, while Robert has already done that, and so that's why we love him, because we get to see him from a standpoint of, okay, he knows what he's doing, and people of our age, we prefer characters who are more emotionally mature, which is why a lot of people do prefer Blonde Blazer at this point. Why? Because she's an emotionally mature character. In the beginning, you may like Invisigal because she's fiery, but then in the end, you prefer Blonde Blazer. Why? Because she is more mature emotionally and just as a person, so you can just get along with her a lot easier. It's like talking to somebody with sentience, somebody that knows what they're doing and won't make a mistake. While Invisigal will constantly make mistakes. Exact same with Mark, and that is why we don't like him as much at this point in the series, at least. So to conclude, why do we hate Mark and love Robert? Well, we hate Mark because Mark can also seem like a reflection of many of us. He is thrown into these drastic situations, even though we will never get to those type of drastic situations. It can be compared to in some way as we like to big things up in our own life to that degree, because that is our lives and that is how much it means to us. So when we are thrown into those situations, Mark and us, we may make irrational decisions, but in those moments we love people like Robert, because Robert is a character, or just a person overall, who we can depend on and look upon if we need somebody to just rely upon. He's somebody who knows what they are doing. They've gone through all the slips and falls that we are going to go through or have gone through, and so he's somebody that can just hold our hand and guide our way through it. Seeing all his decisions and how he can just take hold of a situation because of his maturity, that is something that we all love. We love somebody who knows what they are doing. That's just a natural thing. That's a natural human thing. And that is the very opposite of somebody like Mark. We hate Mark in quotation marks because he is somebody who makes a lot of those mistakes over and over again, in fact. And he is a massive hypocrite. He will scold people for doing bad things, but will do those bad things himself. He will tell people certain things and will cuss at people, but then will call out for them when he is in danger. That's what us humans do, and we don't like it. And so we're not going to like Mark necessarily unless we understand that, until he then matures, and then we can say, okay, cool, he has reached his apex point, and so now we can actually understand him as a character. And maybe you still hate him for what he did earlier, but he's still a growing character. He doesn't do it out of malice of his own heart. He's doing it because, well, he is a growing person. He has growing pain. So that happens. And characters like Robert, because they are already done with their cycle of maturity, and yes, he does grow throughout Dispatch as well, his maturity is done for the most part. So a lot of his decisions are calculated and thought through and from experience, so we can sit there and just love him. But yeah, that is the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, as I really enjoy making it. And yeah, when I saw this on Twitter, I'm not going to lie to you, I was kind of confused on why people were comparing the two, because I was like, I've seen Cecil, like a lot of Cecil comparisons are being thrown about, and I'm not going to say too much on that because I may have a video in the works for that, but there is a lot of like throwing around of these two, and it's kind of confusing to me because it's like, Mark in my eyes is way more of an Invisigal comp than a Robert comp. I've just never, like, I just don't see how you compare those two. Robert is a Cecil comp at this point. Like, I mean, I get the art styles and whatnot and just like the whole premise of it, but nah. But anyway, expect more Dispatch videos in the future. So yeah, I shall see you guys next video. I love you all. Goodbye.